Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Now this time I have a quick how-to, and it's a basic guide on learning how to use your Instant Pot. Now I have the older version, which is called the Instant Pot Luxe, but this will also help you if you have any of the other newer versions as well. Now I bought this Instant Pot 6 months ago. 3 months later I finally started using it, so I'm sure that that's why you're watching this video, because you also have an Instant Pot that you haven't touched or used. You're wasting your money. So what I want you to do is get off the couch, go get your Instant Pot, watch this video, and let's start Instant Potting. So the first thing you should know before using your Instant Pot is that the timing of your meals is not exactly the actual time it'll take to cook. Now, recipes will say for instance, a pork chop will take 7 minutes or so. So it's not actually going to take just 7 minutes, because you have to factor in the time it takes to build up the pressure beforehand. And depending on whatever meal you're making, you'll either quick release the pressure or you'll naturally release the pressure. And that could take, depending on what you have in there or how much pressure is built up in the pot, it could take between 10 to 20 minutes. Also, when you're building up the pressure before it starts cooking, that could also take between 5 to 10 to 20 minutes as well. So in total, a so-called 7-minute meal actually is about 25 to maybe a half hour. Alright, so while I'm explaining, I figured I might as well make some rice to help with the explanation. So I'm going to take the pot off. Sounds like RTD2. And I'm going to follow my recipe to make rice. Okay, so just like I mentioned in the beginning about the times not being the actual time it takes to cook, this is a cup of rice, which I mentioned I'm making the yellow rice meal. And this is only supposed to take 4 minutes, but this also requires a 10-minute natural release and then a quick release. So I'm going to pour my cup of rice in there, and then I'm going to put 1 cup and a 1/4 cup of cups of water in this pot as well. And also I will then explain to you the difference between the quick release and the natural release. Alright, so just to show you, I added my cup and a 1/4 cup of water and this gigantic tablespoon of butter. Now it's always important, not that you wouldn't know this, but to always have some type of liquid in your Instant Pot before you actually put the lid on there, because if you don't do that, you will get a burn notice, and I believe your Instant Pot will probably blow up. I don't know, I just believe that. But anyway. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and cook this for 4 minutes. Now, they have these preset buttons here, and it's your choice as to whether or not you use them. I never actually used the preset buttons, and I instead use this manual button. Now, depending on the type of Instant Pot that you have, yours might say pressure cook, but this particular model says manual. So I click the manual button, and it's actually already set to 4, but if you had to set it for, say, 10 minutes, you would just push the plus button. The minus button obviously allows you to go down. So I set this to 4 minutes, and then you just allow it to start to pressurize. Once it starts to pressurize, you'll see the on notification there, and this may take up to 5 minutes, and depending on what type of food or how much food you have in there, it can pressurize between 5 and 20 minutes. Now, this little sealing valve needs to always be facing forward. So you see that this is the front of the Instant Pot. Make sure that this is always facing forward. And on this particular model, it's on sealing when it's facing forward. To the left and to the right, that means it is venting. You never want to have it on venting while you're cooking, or it'll never come to pressure. Alright, so while we're waiting for this to cook, I'll just go over another tip to remember, and that is to know the difference between quick release and natural release. So I'll be able to explain this further once this finishes cooking, but basically a natural release means that you don't touch this sealing valve. You don't push it to the left or to the right. You just allow it to release the pressure naturally. If it's a quick release, then that means after this finishes cooking, meaning the sound has beeped, you will then turn the sealing valve and it will immediately start to release the pressure. I'll also show you as well that this has a little a little knob back here, a little pin, and the pin is up during the entire time while it's pressurizing, and then when it finishes, it'll drop, and that's when you know that your meal is completely finished and you're allowed to open up the lid there. Don't ever open up the lid until this pin has dropped. Alright, so now it's come to pressure, and that took 4 minutes exactly. So you'll start to see the time start to count down. And now you could just walk away and wait till the bell rings. So just to show you what that pin looks like that I was talking about, I'm not sure you can get a good view of this, but it's not too good. Darn. But anyway, the pin is actually bobbing up and down, meaning that it is definitely cooking. So when this is done cooking, that pin will then drop. So now my food is done, and right now I'm allowing it to just naturally release, and when it's naturally releasing, you'll see this L here, and it'll actually start to count upward, and that'll just show you how long it's been naturally releasing. So right now the recipe says to naturally release it for 10 minutes. So that means I will not touch this little knob here. If it was a quick release, I would then push it to the left or to the right, but it's not a quick release, it's just a natural release, so you don't touch it. Down. And again, you don't have to do anything but just wait. So I can't really get a good focus on this, but this button here is the keep warm / cancel button, and that's important to know because once your food finishes cooking, it automatically goes into the keep warm mode. Now your food will remain on the keep warm mode if you don't click it twice. If you click it twice, that means it cancels it off the keep warm mode. But if you want to just keep it on keep warm, it stays on that automatically for 10 hours until you cut it off. After 10 hours, it cuts off by itself. So while we're waiting for this to reach 10 minutes, I'll just quickly show you this saute button. We didn't need the saute button for this particular recipe, but while I don't use any of these other preset buttons, I do use the saute button, and that is for times when you need to saute your onions or mushrooms. And the important thing about that is to never press the saute button and put the lid on, because that is not how it's supposed to work. Alright, so now that we reached the 10-minute mark, we've allowed it to naturally release for 10 minutes. So now it says to do a quick release. So what I'm going to do is I could either push the knob to the left or to the right for it to then quick release. And I'm not sure if you heard that, but the pin also dropped back here as well. Now, normally if there was more pressure in it, you would see a bunch of the steam release, but there's no pressure that needed to be released out of that, and because the pin dropped, now I'm able to open up the lid. So finish the rice. Rice turned out really nice, and this is the consistency that I like my rice. And if you're cooking rice on the stove, it definitely takes the same amount of time, but I just think that Instant Pot rice is just much better. So let's put this on a plate. So the unfortunate thing about this camera here is you can't see how moist and nice and tender this rice is, but there you go. Alright, well, I hope you at least learn enough about the Instant Pot to at least get started. I would totally recommend trying rice as your first meal. This yellow rice turned out amazing. I mean, Instant Pot rice just literally just tastes much better than stovetop rice. That's in my opinion. But thanks again for watching. Till next time.